Hey everybody, welcome back to Build a Website from Scratch with HTML and CSS. This video is called Span and Div. In this lecture, we are going to learn about the HTML span and div tags. First things first, open your code editor. Create a new file in your lesson 4 folder called span-div.html. In that HTML file, add your basic HTML structure and give it the title of span and div. Alright, now that we're back here, let me explain a little something. HTML is all about adding meaning to your website. So basically the HTML is what tells the user of the website what is on the web page. It's all about the meaning. It's not about the visual appeal or what it looks like. It's literally about the content and the meaning. So for example, you know that a level 1 heading is a heading. This means it's a heading. A P tag is a paragraph. We know that's a paragraph. An M tag is for emphasis. We know that. A strong tag is for strong emphasis. A UL is an unordered list, a list item. So this all has meaning. We know that, and it tells the browser not only on the front end of things you can see these things and they add meaning to the web page. You can see these actual elements with the text that it shows. It makes sense. On the back end, the browser can also read these and know what elements you're using in your HTML, so it adds meaning all around. However, there are these funny tags in HTML called span and div. Here's a div tag and here's a span tag. Now, what the heck does div mean and what the heck does span mean? They don't seem to add much meaning, and that's kind of the funny part. They stand alone, they don't add any meaning to a web page whatsoever. They're just meaningless tags. They don't add any sort of semantic value to the web page. However, they are used extensively in every website, and you use them in a way that a div wraps text, or sorry, a div wraps other elements. So say for example, we have a level 1 heading, and this text says using the span and div tags, and let's add a paragraph tag here and say this is a paragraph. So you can see the div tag is wrapping these two elements here, but you wonder why is that? Well, you would use it primarily in conjunction with CSS, which we will be touching on very soon, so that you can select maybe not just the H1 or the paragraph tag. Maybe this whole section right here is something on your website. So for example, let's say this has the ID of main container. So this div is given the ID of main container, so therefore everything within it is a child element of main container. So I can select in CSS the ID of main container and do something with it, and it's going to wrap everything that's within it. So that's kind of how you would use a div. It doesn't look much different. Span and div tags, you don't see a div tag unless you style it in CSS. A span tag is very similar. It's kind of a meaningless tag, and you would use it more specifically to wrap something that is an inline element. So a div is a block level element, if you remember from our previous lecture about block and inline elements. A span is an inline element, so you would use it pretty much to do something kind of like this. This is a paragraph. It is nested within a div. And let's say we wanted to wrap nested with a span tag. So you can see that I put it right here, wrapped around nested within the paragraph tag, but what is this? What's the point of this? Why would I wrap this word with the span of nested? Well, I would probably do something like this. I would give this span a class of, I don't know, let's call it explosive. And in CSS, I would select explosive, and maybe I wanted it to be like really big, bold, red text, something that kind of looked explosive. I don't know. And that's where you would use this. So just as a recap, a div is a tag that you would use to structure blocks of HTML elements, so that further down the line when you're using your CSS, you can select this whole container, this div that has this ID. A span is an inline wrapper, which standalone has no value or meaning, but when you do something with it, like you wrap some text, you can add more value to it by selecting it with CSS. So primarily divs and spans are for the use, you kind of use them in conjunction with CSS. It might be a little bit of a confusing concept right now, but as I mentioned before, we're going to keep going through here, and you're going to start seeing me using divs and spans and IDs and classes, and you're going to start making some sense of how it all works. So try and wrap your head around that and keep following along in the next lectures, and I know that you're going to get the hang of it. So I'll see you soon.